The great hall stretched wide like an ocean made of metal and light. Beings from across the galaxy filled the chamber, each one more impressive than the last. Some had skin that sparkled like diamonds. Others had multiple arms that moved like water flowing. The largest ones stood tall as buildings, their bodies able to survive in the cold darkness of space itself. Dae-sung stood in the center of it all, feeling very small. He wore his formal ambassador uniform, the medals on his chest seeming meaningless here. Behind him stood Heejin, her tablet clutched tight in her hands. She was young for a chief scientist, barely past 30, but her eyes held the kind of knowledge that came from years of study. The leader of the council was named Tarak. His body looked like it was carved from purple crystal, light bending through him in strange ways. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the hall like thunder. "We have reviewed your species application," Tarak said. His tone made it clear what he thought. "Humanity wishes to join the Galactic Council. Let us examine what you bring to us." A massive screen appeared above them. Images of humans flashed across it. Medical scans, biological data, charts, and numbers that told the story of human weakness. "One heart," a council member called out. Laughter rippled through the hall. "Skin that tears easily," another added. More laughter. "They cannot survive temperature changes," said a third voice. "They need special suits just to visit other worlds." Tarak raised one crystalline hand. The laughter stopped. "They live barely 100 years. Most species here live 10 times that. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced senses. They are not even particularly intelligent compared to the greater minds in this council." Dae-sung felt his jaw tighten. He had been a Marine for 20 years before becoming an ambassador. He had survived 3 wars on Earth and 2 peacekeeping missions on colony worlds. He knew what humans could do. But how could he make these beings understand? "We are adaptable," Dae-sung said, his voice steady. "We survive." Survive? A massive creature named Morphus leaned forward. He had 8 arms and eyes that glowed red. "The Kryn survive. We can fight for days without rest. The Thulgrim survive. They breathe poison gas and walk through fire. What can humans do? What can humans do? What can humans do?" Hyjin stepped forward. She was nervous, Dae-sung could tell, but she kept her voice clear. "We learn. We change. We overcome." Tarak made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Pretty words. But words do not prove strength. 3 species before you asked to join the council. 3 species we considered too weak. We gave them each a test. None passed." "What test?" Dae-sung asked. The screen above changed. It showed a world that looked like it had been torn apart and put back wrong. The sky was green and angry. Mountains spat fire. The oceans looked thick, like blood. "Keth 7, Tarak said. "A death world." The Vorathi sent their strongest warriors. They lasted 2 months before they begged for rescue. The Selenites sent their most adaptable scouts. 3 months. The Borlons sent 100 of their best survivors. 1 month. "And you want us to go there?" Heejin asked. 1 year, Tarak said. "Survive 1 year on Keith 7. Then we will consider your application again. If you refuse, you are not ready to join the galaxy. If you fail, well..." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Dae-sung looked at Heejin. She was scared. He could see it in her eyes. But there was something else there too. Determination. The same look he had seen on the faces of soldiers before a difficult mission. "We accept," Dae-sung said. The hall erupted in noise. Some council members seemed amused. Others looked almost sad, as if they pitied the foolish humans. Tarak simply nodded. "Interesting. Foolish, but interesting. You have 1 month to prepare. Then we will transport you to Keth 7. 50 humans may go. Choose carefully." The meeting ended. As the council members filed out, Dae-sung heard their conversations. They were making bets on how long humans would last. Most gave them less than a month. A few generous ones said 6 weeks. "We should not have accepted," Heejin said quietly as they walked back to their transport ship. "The data I saw on Keth 7. Ambassador, nothing should be able to live there." "I know," Dae-sung said. "Then why did you say yes?" Dae-sung stopped walking. He turned to look at her. "Because they are testing the wrong thing. They think survival is about being strong, being tough, having thick skin, or multiple hearts, or long life." "It is not?" Heijin asked. "No," Dae-sung said. "Survival is about refusing to die. It is about looking at the impossible and finding a way anyway. It is about being so stubborn that the universe itself gets tired of trying to kill you." Heejin was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. "You sound like my grandfather. He survived the water wars. He used to say humans are like weeds. You can cut us down, burn us, poison the ground. We come back anyway." "Smart man," Dae-sung said. They reached their ship. As Dae-sung climbed aboard, he looked back at the Great Hall. He thought about the council members, laughing at human weakness. He thought about the bets they were making. They did not understand. Not yet. But they would. Humans had spent their entire history being the weakest creature in the room. On Earth, they had been prey for so many other animals. They had no claws, no fangs, no venom. They had been easy to catch and easy to kill. But somehow, humans had survived. They had become the dominant species on their world. Not by being the strongest, but by being the most determined. By being willing to try anything. By never giving up. And Keth 7 was a death world. Fine. Earth had been a death world too. Once upon a time, Dae-sung smiled as the ship lifted off. The galaxy thought they knew what humans were. They had looked at the data and seen weakness. They had not seen the whole picture. They would learn. The transport ship dropped through the green clouds of Keth 7 like a stone falling into hell. Inside, 50 humans held tight to their seats as the ship shook and rattled. Dae-sung watched through the window as lightning that looked like blood streaked across the sky. They had spent the last month preparing. Earth had sent its best. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, doctors. People who knew how to survive in places that did not want them to live. Dae-sung had chosen carefully. He did not pick the strongest or the smartest. He picked the ones who would not quit. Landing sight ahead, the pilot called out. Her name was Minseo. She had flown rescue missions in the asteroid belt for 10 years. If anyone could land them safely, she could. The ship touched down hard. The ground under them was purple and looked wet, even though it was not raining. Heijin checked her instruments, and her face went pale. "The air is toxic," she said. "We need masks just to breathe. And the radiation levels are 3 times what we expected. Can we survive it?" Dae-sung asked. "Short term, yes. Long term." She did not finish. "Then we adapt," Dae-sung said simply. They opened the cargo doors. The air that rushed in smelled like burning metal and rotting fruit mixed together. It made several people gag. They pulled on their breathing masks and stepped out onto Keth 7. The world around them looked angry. Mountains in the distance spat fire into the green sky. The ground was covered in plants that moved, even though there was no wind. Strange sounds came from the forest that started just 50 meters from where they landed. "Set up the base camp," Dae-sung ordered. "Jinwoo, I need shelter fast." Jinwoo was their best engineer. He was 28 and had built emergency colonies on 3 different worlds. He walked around the landing site, his eyes moving quickly, taking everything in. "The local stone is dense," he said. "We can use it. And those trees, if that is what they are, they look strong. Give me 3 days." "You have 2, Dae-sung said. Jinwoo grinned. "Even better. While Jinwoo and his team started building, Bo-Ra took another team to scout the area. Bo-Ra had been a security chief on a mining colony that got attacked by pirates. She had held them off for 6 days with just 12 people until help arrived. If anyone could keep them safe, she could. Stay close, Bo-Ra said to her team. We do not know what lives here yet. Weapons ready, but do not fire unless I say so. They moved into the forest carefully. The plants here were tall and twisted. Some had leaves that looked like metal. Others dripped, something that hissed when it hit the ground. The team marked their path as they went, leaving small lights so they could find their way back. That was when they heard it. A sound like grinding stones mixed with a scream. What was that? One of the team asked. Something big, Bo-Ra said. Back-to-back formation. Now, they formed a circle, weapons pointing out. The sound came again. Closer this time. Then, they saw it. The creature stood 3 meters tall. It had 6 legs and a body covered in spikes. Its mouth had 3 rows of teeth that spun like a saw blade. It looked at them with eyes that had no kindness in them. Do not run, Bo-Ra said quietly. Running makes you prey. The creature charged. Bo-Ra waited until it was close, then fired. The blast hit it in the chest but barely slowed it down. The team fired together. The creature stumbled, but kept coming. Scatter, Bo-Ra yelled. They dove in different directions. The creature was fast, but it could only chase one target. It went after Bo-Ra. She ran, but not in a straight line. She zigged and zagged between the trees. The creature followed, its huge body smashing through plants. Then Bo-Ra stopped. She turned and fired at a tree above the creature. The tree fell, its heavy trunk crashing down. The creature tried to dodge but was not fast enough. The tree pinned it to the ground. The creature thrashed and screamed, but it could not get free. Bo-Ra walked closer, careful to stay out of reach. She studied it. Armor is thick on the front, she said. But the belly looks softer, and it cannot turn its head much. If we get behind it, we can take it down. She shot the creature behind the head. It stopped moving. Let us bring a sample back, Bo-Ra said. Jin will want to study it. Back at the base camp, Jinwoo had already built the frame of their first shelter. It was made from local stone and some of the metal-like trees. It did not look pretty, but it looked strong. How did you build this so fast? Daesung asked. The stone cuts easy if you know how, Jinwoo said. And these trees, they are not wood. They are some kind of metal-organic hybrid, stronger than steel, but flexible. This world is trying to kill us, but it is also giving us tools to survive. Jin was examining the creature Bo-Ra brought back. She wore thick gloves and worked carefully. This thing should not be able to exist, she said. The radiation here would kill most creatures. But look at its cells. They actually use the radiation for energy. It is like a plant using sunlight, but with deadly radiation instead. Can we do that? Daesung asked. Not naturally. But if I can figure out how it works. Jin smiled. We might be able to modify our suits to convert radiation into power. Turn a weakness into a strength. The first month was the hardest. They learned that the rain was acidic and would eat through metal. They learned that some of the plants exploded if you touched them. They learned that the ground in some areas was not solid and would swallow you whole. They lost 2 people in the first month. One to a plant they did not know was poisonous. One to a creature that hunted at night and made no sound. But they adapted. Jinwoo built shelters that stood up to the acid rain. Jin found plants that were safe to eat, and even some that could be used as medicine. Bo-Ra mapped the territory and figured out where the dangerous predators hunted and when. By the 3rd month, they were not just surviving. They were learning to live. The Galactic Council watched through monitoring satellites. They saw humans building not 1 base, but 3. They saw humans studying the predators, instead of just hiding from them. They saw humans turning a death world into a home. Tarak watched the screens in silence. He had been so certain these soft-skinned creatures would fail in weeks. But here they were, 3 months in, and they were thriving. "How are they doing this?" Morphus asked. "They are so weak." "I do not know," Tarak admitted. "But I am beginning to think we measured the wrong things." On Keth 7, Daesung stood outside the main shelter and looked at the green sky. His body hurt. Everyone's body hurt. The radiation made them sick sometimes. The air still smelled terrible. The predators still hunted them, but they were still here. Still fighting. Still refusing to die. 9 more months, Heijin said, walking up beside him. 9 more months. Daesung agreed. They would make it. He knew they would. Because humans had one advantage that none of the council members had thought to measure. Humans were too stubborn to know when they were beaten. 7 months had passed on Keth 7. The human settlement no longer looked temporary. 3 bases connected by paths that Jinwoo's team had built. Gardens grew under protective domes. The humans had even started to domesticate some of the smaller pack creatures, the ones Bora called knife dogs because of their sharp teeth. In orbit above the planet, the Galactic Council monitoring station tracked everything. Tarak stood in the observation room, watching the screens with an expression that was hard to read. "They have exceeded all projections," an assistant said. "They should have failed by now." Yes," Tarak said quietly. "They should have." That was when the alarm started. A council scientist rushed into the room, his 3 eyes wide with panic. "Solar flare! Class 7. Directly toward Keth 7. Impact in 72 hours. Tarak's crystalline body flashed bright with shock. "That will sterilize the surface. Nothing will survive. And there is more," the scientist continued. "The gravitational stress from the flare will trigger the supervolcano. The whole northern continent will be destroyed." Morphus entered the room, his 8 arms moving in agitation. "We must evacuate the humans. This was not part of the test. We cannot let them die for our experiment." Tarak was already moving toward the communications station. "Open a channel to the human base. Tell them we are sending ships. They have 72 hours to evacuate." Down on Keth 7, Daesung received the message. The entire team gathered in the main shelter to hear it. The council's voice came through, explaining the danger. Explaining that they would send rescue ships. Explaining that this was beyond the test parameters and no one would think less of them for leaving. When the message ended, the room was silent. "Well," Jinwoo said finally. "We could leave," Heijin said. She looked around at the others. "The council is giving us an out. No one would blame us." Bora laughed. It was not a happy sound. "We have been here 7 months. We have lost friends here. We have bled here. And now, we are supposed to just leave because things got difficult?" "We said 1 year," Daesung said. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. "We told them we would survive 1 year. Did we mean it? Or not?" One by one, hands went up. Every person in the room. Daesung opened the communication channel. "This is Ambassador Daesung. Thank you for the offer of evacuation. We decline. We will complete our year." In the monitoring station, Tarak stared at the screen. "They are refusing rescue? Should we force them?" Morphus asked. "No," Tarak said slowly. "If they wish to stay, that is their choice. But I do not understand it. They are choosing to die. Or," said a quiet voice from the back of the room, "they know something we do not." On Keth 7, the humans were not wasting time talking about the decision. They were moving. Jinwoo spread out maps and data charts. "The flare will hit the surface with enough radiation to cook anything alive. But underground, we might survive. We need deep caves," Heijin said. "And we need them fast." "The volcanic system," said Sung-min, their medical officer. He was quiet most of the time. But he had been studying the planet's geology. "There are old lava tubes under the eastern base. deep enough to shield us from the radiation. The volcano is going to erupt, Bora pointed out. Won't those tubes fill with lava? Only the active ones, Sungmin said. These tubes are dead. They have been cold for thousands of years. The new eruption will create new channels. We just need to make sure we are not in the way. Jinwoo was already calculating. We can do this. We use the caves for shelter. We seal the entrances against radiation. We use the volcanic heat for power. The eruption might actually help us. Quote, how much time do we need? Daesung asked. 72 hours, Jinwoo said. Then he smiled. Good thing that is exactly how much time we have. What followed was 3 days that the Galactic Council would study for years afterward. The humans worked without stopping. They rotated shifts so that some could rest while others worked. But many refused to rest at all. They mapped the cave systems. They moved all their supplies underground. They built seals for the cave entrances using materials they had been making for months. Bora's security teams did something that shocked the observers. They went out into the predator territories and herded the knife dogs toward the caves. They were saving the creatures that had hunted them for months. Why save the predators? An observer asked Tarek. I do not know, Tarek admitted. But he was beginning to suspect. Heejin worked with Sungmin to prepare for the radiation exposure they could not avoid. They knew the cave seals would not be perfect. They knew some radiation would get through. They prepared medicine and treatments, using what they had learned from the local creatures that thrived on radiation. Jinwoo's engineering team worked miracles. They set up generators that would convert volcanic heat into power. They created water filtration systems using volcanic rock. They built air recyclers from local plants. They were turning the caves into a home. At the 60-hour mark, Daesung forced everyone to take a 4-hour rest. Bodies could only go so far without sleep. At the 70-hour mark, everything was ready. All humans were underground. All supplies were secured. The cave entrances were sealed. They waited. In the monitoring station, every council member was watching. No one spoke. They stared at the screens, showing Keth 7, waiting for the flare to hit. When it came, the sky of Keth 7 turned white. The temperature on the surface jumped to over 1,000 degrees in seconds. Plants that had stood for centuries turned to ash. The metal trees melted. The radiation levels spiked so high that the monitors briefly stopped working. Then the volcano erupted. The entire northern continent shook. Lava poured across the land like angry water. Ash filled the sky, turning day to night. Nothing could survive that, Morphus whispered. But then, from deep underground, a signal came through. Weak, but steady. A human voice. This is Daesung. All personnel accounted for. We are alive. The monitoring room erupted in shock. Tarak moved closer to the screens, his crystalline body bright with disbelief. How? He demanded. How are they alive? How? Down in the caves, the humans were battered and tired. The cave seals had held, but not perfectly. Everyone had some radiation sickness. The shaking from the volcano had caused some cave-ins. 3 people had broken bones, but they were alive. The temperature down here is stable, Jinwoo reported. The generators are working perfectly. We have power for months. Water filtration is operational, Heejin added. And the gardens. We lost some, but most survived. Sungmin was moving from person to person, checking injuries and treating radiation sickness. Everyone will recover. We were prepared. Ever. Daesung allowed himself a small smile. They had done it. They had faced the worst Keth 7 could throw at them, and survived. But more than survived. As days passed, and the surface began to cool, they started sending drones up to see the damage. What they found was unexpected. The eruption had created new mineral deposits on the surface. The ash was rich in nutrients. The radiation had killed the most dangerous predators, but the knife dogs had survived in the caves with the humans. The planet reset itself, Hyejin said in wonder. And we are still here to see it. In orbit, Tarak watched as humans slowly emerged from the caves. He watched as they started rebuilding immediately. Not just rebuilding, but improving. They were using the new minerals, planting in the ash-rich soil, expanding their territory. I was wrong, Tarak said finally. We all were. About what? Morphus asked. We thought strength meant thick armor and multiple hearts. We thought survival meant being tough enough to withstand anything. Tarak gestured at the screen. But true strength is this: adaptation, problem-solving, refusing to accept defeat. The humans are not strong because they can take damage. They are strong because they refuse to stay down. He turned to face the council members who had gathered to watch. They did not survive the disaster. They turned it into an opportunity. That is what we failed to measure. That is what makes them dangerous. The year on Keth 7 ended. When the transport ships came to pick up the humans, they found bases that looked permanent, gardens that thrived, even a small herd of domesticated knife dogs that followed Bo-Ra around like loyal pets. The Galactic Council held a ceremony. Tarak himself presented Daesung with the council membership credentials. There were no jokes this time, no laughter. Every species in the hall had watched the human survival on Keth 7. They had seen what these frail beings could do. Welcome to the Galactic Council, Tarak said formally. You have earned your place here. Daesung accepted with a bow. Hyejin stood beside him, along with Jinwoo, Bo-Ra, and the other survivors. They looked tired. They all had scars now, physical and otherwise, but they stood proud. The celebration lasted 3 days. Humans were the talk of the galaxy. Species that had ignored Earth before now sent ambassadors. Trade agreements were discussed. Cultural exchanges planned. Then, on the 4th day, everything changed. The emergency klaxons woke everyone in the council station. Daesung rushed to the command center, still pulling on his uniform. Other council members were already there, their faces showing fear. What happened? Daesung demanded. Tarak turned to him. For the first time since they met, Daesung saw genuine terror in those crystalline eyes. The shriek have broken through the outer rim defenses, Tarak said. 3 systems have already fallen. The shriek? Daesung looked at Hyejin. She was already pulling up data on her tablet. Parasitic hive species, she read quickly. They consume everything, spread like disease. They have been contained in the dark zone for 5,000 years. Contained? Daesung asked. Not anymore, Morphus said grimly. His 8 arms were moving in patterns that suggested extreme stress. Our fleets engaged them at the border. We lost. They are moving toward the core worlds now. Nothing stops them. Daesung studied the tactical displays. The shriek spread across the map like spilled ink, consuming system after system. The council fleets tried to stop them, and were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. How do they fight? Bo-Ra asked. She had moved beside Daesung, her eyes studying the displays with professional interest. They swarm, Morphus explained. Millions of drones, all controlled by queens. They adapt to any weapon we use. They do not fear death because they are not truly individuals. The hive is all that matters. And you cannot stop them? Jinwoo asked. We have tried for 2 weeks, Tarak said. His voice was hollow. We have lost half our military. The Kryn homeworld is under siege. The Vorathi have begun evacuation protocols. In 1 month, maybe less, the shriek will reach the core worlds. Billions will die. The room fell silent. Daesung could see the defeat in every face. These powerful species, these beings, who had seemed invincible, were giving up. What about humanity? Hyejin asked quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. What do you mean? Tarak asked. You asked us to join the council, Hyejin said. That means we are part of the galaxy now, part of the defense. What does humanity need to do? Tarak looked at her for a long moment. Can you help? Your species is new. You have no fleet. No massive military. We have something, Daesung said. May I see the tactical data? All of it. For the next 6 hours, Daesung, Bora, Hyejin, and Jinwoo studied everything the council had on the Shriek. Battle reports, biological data, tactical analysis. They barely spoke to each other. Each one focused on different aspects. Finally, Daesung looked up. I need to contact Earth. We need military command on a secure channel. And I need you to give us operational control of the defense. Give humans control? Morphus asked. Your entire species has maybe 50 warships. We have thousands, and you are losing. Bora said bluntly. Your thousands of ships keep fighting the same way and keep losing. You need a different approach. Marketing. What approach? Tarak demanded. Daesung smiled, but it was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator. You have been fighting the Shriek like they are an army. They are not an army. They are a disease. And humans know how to fight diseases. Earth's response came within hours. 50 warships were dispatched immediately. But more importantly, Earth sent military advisors, special forces, tactical specialists, people who had studied warfare not as a last resort, but as a science. Captain Minseo arrived with the first wave. She was the pilot who had landed them on Keth 7. But now, she commanded a destroyer. With her came Commander Junho, a special forces leader who had seen combat on a dozen worlds. Ambassador, Minseo said, saluting Daesung. Earth sends its regards and its weapons. What do you need? Everything, Daesung said. We are going to war. The strategy session lasted 2 days. Human military commanders sat with council representatives and explained what they planned to do. The council members listened with growing disbelief. You want to do what? Tarak asked. Let them take the system, Junho explained patiently. The Shriek move in predictable patterns. They take a system, strip it of resources, then move on. Let them commit to the Kavros system. Then we hit them from all sides simultaneously. That system has 3 billion Kavros people in it, Morphus protested. We will evacuate them first, Minseo said. We have 2 weeks. We can get most of them out. It is not perfect, but fighting the Shriek head-on is suicide. We need to be smarter. You are talking about sacrificing a system, Tarak said. I am talking about winning the war. Junho replied. You can hold every system and lose everything. Or you can give up one and save the rest. The council voted. It was close, but they agreed. They had no other options left. The evacuation of Kavros was the largest in galactic history. Human ships worked alongside council fleets. They pulled people off planets faster than anyone thought possible. Not everyone made it, but they saved 2.7 billion people in 12 days. Then they baited the trap. The Shriek came to Kavros, like Junho knew they would. Millions of drones poured into the system, consuming the resources left behind. They spread out, confident in their dominance. That was when the combined fleet struck, but they did not attack head-on like before. Human tactics changed everything. Fast strike forces hit supply lines. Stealth ships targeted queens. Chemical weapons, designed by Hyejin, disrupted hive communications. The humans did not fight fair. They poisoned resources the Shriek consumed. They used psychological warfare, broadcasting signals that confused the drones. They attacked and retreated, never staying in one place. This is not honorable combat, one council member complained. War is not about honor, Bora replied coldly. It is about winning. The battle for Kavros lasted 6 days. When it ended, the Shriek had lost 3 queens and millions of drones. More importantly, they had lost their momentum. They are adapting, Hyejin reported. Learning from our tactics. Then we change tactics, Junho said simply. We stay ahead of them, and that became the pattern. For 3 weeks, humans led the Council forces in a brutal campaign. They lost ships. They lost people. But they kept winning battles. The Shriek were pushed back system by system, but the cost was high. Every victory left survivors exhausted. Resources ran low. The Council forces were winning, but they were also breaking. Then, intelligence came in that changed everything. They had found the primary Shriek Queen, the one controlling all the others. She was hidden on the Kryn homeworld, deep underground, protected by millions of drones. If we kill her, the hive collapses, Heijin explained. But getting to her is impossible. Nothing could fight through those numbers. Nothing except humans, Junho said quietly. Everyone looked at him. You cannot be serious, Tarak said. That is a suicide mission. Yes, Junho agreed. It is. Junho stood in front of the tactical display showing the Kryn homeworld. The planet was covered in red markers, each one representing thousands of Shriek drones. In the center, deep underground, a single golden marker showed where the primary queen hid. 100 volunteers, Junho said. That is all I need. 100 against millions? Morphus asked. That is madness. Yes, Junho agreed. But it will work. Daesung studied his friend's face. They had served together in the Marines 20 years ago. He knew that look. Junho had already decided he was not coming back. Explain the plan, Daesung said quietly. Junho pointed at the display. The Shriek defend in layers. Millions of drones on the surface, thousands in the tunnels, hundreds directly protecting the queen. They expect a large force, so they spread out to meet it. And if it is a small force? Heijin asked. We go fast. We go hard. We do not stop moving. Junho traced a path through the tunnels. Young-Su has developed charges that use the Shriek's own biology against them. We plant them as we go. When they detonate, they release a pathogen that only affects the Queen's neural network. You will be fighting for 3 days straight, Bora said. She had studied the path. Through constant combat. No rest. No reinforcements. No extraction. I know, Junho said. I am going with you, Bora said immediately. Me too, said Young-Su, the demolitions expert who had developed the pathogen charges. And me, said a dozen other voices. Within an hour, Junho had his 100 volunteers. Every one of them knew they were not coming back. Every one of them went anyway. The council representatives tried to find another way. They ran simulations. They looked for alternatives. But the math was clear. This was the only path to victory. And it required people willing to die. I do not understand, Tarak said to Daesung. They know it is suicide. Why volunteer? Because someone has to, Daesung said simply. And because they are human, we do not ask others to sacrifice what we will not sacrifice ourselves. The strike team prepared for 2 days. They trained for tunnel fighting. They memorized the path. They said their goodbyes. Heijin gave them the pathogen charges personally. These will kill the queen. But you need to get them close. Within 50 meters of her neural center. We will get them there, Junho promised. Min Seo flew them in personally. Her ship cut through the Shriek swarm in orbit, taking damage but getting through. She brought them down to the surface in a drop pod that hit like a meteor. Good luck, Min Seo said over the comm. Give them hell. Always do. Junho replied. The pod doors opened. The team rushed out into hell itself. The surface of the Kryn homeworld was covered in Shriek biomass. It pulsed and moved like it was alive. Drones swarmed immediately. The team formed a wedge formation and pushed forward, weapons firing constantly. They reached the tunnel entrance in 4 minutes. 12 people were already dead. Inside the tunnels, the fighting was worse. Close quarters, no room to maneuver. The Shriek came from every direction. But the humans kept moving. They did not stop. They did not slow down. Hour 1. They were 20% through the tunnel system. 28 people dead. Hour 6. 40% through. 47 people dead. Hour 12. 60% through. 63 people dead. Junho led from the front. His armor was cracked. His weapon was running on emergency power. But he kept moving forward. Behind him, Bo-Ra covered the rear, making sure nothing followed them. Young-Su stayed in the middle, protecting the charges. How much farther? Someone asked. Does it matter? Bo-Ra replied. We keep going until we get there, or we die. Those are the only two options. Hour 24. 80% through. 79 people dead. The survivors were beyond exhausted. Their bodies ran on stimulants and pure determination. Several had wounds that should have killed them. They kept fighting anyway. Above ground, the entire galaxy watched. Every species. Every station. They watched. As 100 humans fought through impossible odds. Why are they not stopping? A council observer asked. Because they are human, Tarak said softly. They do not know how to stop. Hour 48. 95% through. 87 people dead. Junho could see the Queen's chamber ahead. The tunnel opened into a massive cave. The Queen sat in the center, a grotesque thing the size of a building. Thousands of drones protected her. Young-Su, Junho said. Can you get the charges in range? Young-Su looked at the chamber. Then he looked at the charges he carried. Yes. But not from here. He smiled. It was a terrible smile. Cover me. What happened next? The galaxy would remember forever. Young-Su ran into the chamber. The remaining 12 humans followed, laying down, covering fire. Drones swarmed from every direction. Young-Su dodged and weaved. The charges held tight to his chest. A drone caught him, its claws tearing through his armor. He fell. But as he fell, he threw the charges. Bo-Ra shot the activation trigger. The charges detonated. The pathogens spread through the Queen's neural network in seconds. The Queen screamed, a sound that shook the entire planet. Her drones went mad, attacking each other, attacking her, attacking anything that moved. Junho and the survivors fought their way back to the tunnel entrance. Behind them, the Queen was dying. Her drones were dying with her. Of the 100 who entered, 23 made it back to the surface. Minseo was there, her ship battered but still flying. Get in, now! They scrambled aboard. The ship lifted off as the planet below convulsed. The Queen's death throes destroyed the entire underground network. In orbit, the Shriek fleet suddenly lost coordination. Without the Queen's control, the drones attacked randomly. The Council fleet pressed the advantage, destroying them while they were confused. Within hours, the Shriek threat was broken. The war was over. The survivors were brought to the Council station as heroes. Junho could barely walk. Bo-Ra had lost an arm, but they were alive. The Council held an emergency session. Every species was represented. They stood in silence as the human survivors entered. Tarak approached Junho. The crystalline being seemed to shine brighter than before. You saved the galaxy, Tarak said. All of you. We can never repay this debt. You do not need to repay it, Junho said. His voice was hoarse from shouting orders for 3 days. We are part of the galaxy now. This is what we do. Tarak turned to address the full council. I said once that humans were frail, that they were weak. I was wrong. Strength is not about thick armor or long life. Strength is about refusing to give up when giving up makes sense. Strength is about looking at impossible odds and saying, I will try anyway. He looked back at the humans. You were born on a world that tried to kill you every day. You learned to turn weakness into strength. You learned that when you cannot be the strongest, you become the most determined. That when you cannot be the fastest, you outlast everything else. We thought you were frail. Morphus added, moving forward. But fragility taught you resilience. Short lives taught you urgency. Being prey taught you to become predators. 6 months later, a monument was erected on Keth 7. The planet was now a thriving colony, green and alive where once it had been a death world. The monument stood tall, carved from the same stone Jinwu had used to build the first shelters. The inscription read in every galactic language. Here, the galaxy learned, humanity's greatest strength was never their bodies. It was their refusal to accept defeat. Dae Sung stood before the monument with He-Jin, Jinwu, and Bo-Ra. They were older now, scarred, tired, but they stood proud. Do you think they finally understand? He-Jin asked. Some do, Dae Sung said. Others will learn. We have time to teach them. Time, Bo-Ra laughed. We always said we did not have much of that. We do not. Dae Sung agreed. That is why we use every moment. That is why we never quit. That is why we are human. They stood together, looking at the monument. Behind them, the colony bustled with life. Humans and aliens working side by side, building, growing, thriving. The galaxy had called them frail. The galaxy had learned better, because humans were not strong in spite of their weakness. They were strong because of it. Every limitation had taught them to adapt. Every hardship had taught them to endure. Every loss had taught them that some things were worth dying for. They were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest or the smartest or the longest lived, but they were human, and that made all the difference.